Have you seen all those tweets from Mike Seiger and Shane Coltra retweeting Jason Sheppard's fantastic health goals on Twitter? Well, Jason is a lot more than just his health goals. He is a really successful domain investor who only started in 2017. We did a great interview together, not only discussing two profitable flips, but also discussing how his partnership works. Might be a good idea if you want one too. And he discusses his pricing strategies, how he has researched that, and what he has found to work best. Enjoy the show.
FD was built by domain investors to increase your inquiries, sales, and profit. Forget spreadsheets and archived emails. Manage your entire investment portfolio in one place using a secure and completely confidential platform. Learn more at ft.com. That's EFTY, ft.com.
Hey, Sherpa Network. Thanks for joining me. I'm Tess Diaz, executive producer of domainsherpa.com. And today we're having a profitable flip with renowned Twitter superstar, Jason Sheppard. What's going on, Jason?
Hey, Tess. Hey, everybody out there in Sherpa land. Doing great here.
Oh, we are so excited. It's been amazing watching you blow up Twitter since NamesCon with your personal goals. And a lot of people don't already know who you are on a business level and how incredibly resourceful and successful you are. Tell us everything. Everything.
Oh, wow. Sounds good. Well, so I'm just a normal guy. I live in North Carolina, born and raised here. I spent a little bit of time in Florida and a little bit of time in Kentucky, but for the most part, I've lived in the central North Carolina my whole life. Went to UNC, Chapel Hill, and definitely a native North Carolinian.
Yeah, that's the real reason I have you on here, just so I can listen to your accent all day.
Oh, I don't even hear it. And it's not really that strong compared to the people around me, but I'm glad you like it. I have a background in IT. I was an IT architect with IBM for a while. All kinds of jobs in my past. I was retail manager. I was a district manager for Blockbuster Video in the heyday of when everybody would go to Blockbuster every Friday and Saturday night.
You were a media mogul.
Yeah, exactly. And so just kind of done a lot of different things. My current avocation is I'm a nightclub DJ. And I've been doing that since 2006. Had a love of DJing my whole life. I remember as a 11 or 12-year-old sitting in my room with my friends, dropping a needle between records and talking in between like we were on the radio. DJ'd, all the best parties in high school, and then DJ'd my way through college. After college, I gave it up, but anybody that's ever been a DJ knows once it's in your blood, it's there to stay. And I wound up buying equipment back again a few years later, and haven't really left it since. Done it here and there, and then found an opportunity in the mid-2000s to do it practically full time. I had a day job for a period of time during that, and eventually was just I had to choose one or the other, and DJing was what I was passionate about, so that's the way I went.
Wow. So what I'm really hearing is that you are an out-of-the-box thinker and you're a curious person who likes to create. And I think that makes sense for why you got into domains. So how'd you get into domains in the first place?
Well, strangely enough, the stint in Kentucky had me get into horses. I owned horses, believe it or not. They make you buy one when you move to Kentucky, believe it. That's what I joke. But seriously, within 6 months of moving to Kentucky, I owned a horse. And let me tell you, if I can give anybody any advice, it's don't impulse buy any animal that weighs more than you do. I mean, you shouldn't be impulse buying animals anyway, but especially not ones that outweigh you. Just a little tip there.
Handle.
So I had bought some names associated with the horse business that I intended to develop, and never really got around to. And then somebody approached me through looking them up on who is and emailing me and wanted to buy one of them. And I said, well, I've got these others too. So they wound up buying the whole lot from me, and I actually made money on it.
How
Made
much
more
money?
money.
You remember?
What?
How much?
Uh, I think I sold about 5 or 6 names for around 3,000, and I don't remember specifics, and it was on an email account that is long since defunct with a with a local ISP. But I want to say that the renewals were a lot more back then, maybe. And
Okay.
so by the time I had renewed them
Still,
and
you
everything,
accidentally made $3,000. What
I
is,
mean, yeah,
tell me
yeah,
about more mistakes you've made.
yeah. Well, and here's the thing: I made more money on the horse domains than I ever did on horses. I lost because the joke in the horse business is, how do you make a small fortune in horses? You start with a large fortune.
Oh,
So,
you got a lot of these. Keep them.
so anyhow, now the story would be great if that said that it ignited my love for domains, and I'd started buying them then. Unfortunately, I just didn't really click. I didn't think, hey, there's more of an opportunity here than I realized, and I just went about doing my thing. Um, and then, as you know, I picked up some side gigs because as a DJ, you work nights, but you got a lot of time during the day. And so I started doing marketing work for a real estate friend. Picked up a couple of domains that I thought he might like. Stumbled across the GoDaddy auction aftermarket and was like, oh, wait a minute, this is kind of cool.
Huh. What
Bought some
year do you think that was?
2017.
Oh, this is, everybody's like, I can't make a full-time living off domains unless it was, I bought things in 2000. Look at you.
No,
All right.
no. So I went back and double checked, doing my homework for talking to you today, and I bought a domain in August of 2017, and so my first modern day sale was in November of that year, and I sold stickshift.net I probably bought it at closeout for like $11 plus the renewal. So I probably had $20 in it. I sold it for 100, and I just thought I was the greatest thing ever. I was like, this is awesome. So, at that point, as everybody that's watching probably knows, I had the bug. And so, I would have my little spreadsheets on names I liked from that were on GoDaddy closeouts, and I would watch the prices, and and I would try and figure out, all right, how much do I want to pay for this? And I wasn't spending, maybe one or two of them in 3 figures. It was mostly 2-figure names. But then, you sell a couple more, and then, you stumble across Domain Sherpa and realize, at that time, I think it was Michael Seiger, and, start watching those, and you realize, hey, this is a whole thing, and just kind of get hooked. And you made all the normal mistakes in the early days, buying domains that were pretty much worthless. But every once in a while, I'd find one that was, connected, and would make a sale, and then I'd be re-energized again. Um, and so, I mean, that's really how I got into it as I am now.
That's wild. And so you do something interesting too in how you have your business structured. Sorry. You buy domains for yourself, and then you also have a partnership that you buy domains for. How do you split that up and know which you want to buy in which umbrella?
Well, the partnership domains are generally the higher end ones. And pretty much my partner has right of first refusal on anything that I see that I like. If he passes on something and I like it enough, then I may bid on it. And on the better names, and on some of the lower names, I'm not running 100 names past my partner, every day or even every week necessarily. I know what he likes, and I kind of know what direction that particular portfolio needs to go. We're pretty well stocked. I think that one has about 1,700 names, uh, but it's well stocked up on the lower end ones that will move on a regular basis and pay for renewals, and then the higher end names that take a little longer to sell. We've got a pretty good number of those. I mean, when I looked through the portfolio there, the top names on it are ones that I'm, pretty proud we picked up. So,
Good for you. And who is your partner, Jason?
it is a longtime business associate of mine that would prefer to remain behind the scenes at this point, but we have a very good relationship. I do some other types of work for him, including some of the DJ work that I do. He's a local business owner here that
Oh, that's
I've known going on 20 years now.
wow. And did he already know about domains, or he got sucked into your vortex?
It was more the vortex because I'm not going to say it was a master plan to lure him in, but as I would see things that I thought, were a little bit beyond my reach, I would, just kind of mention them when we were having conversations about other stuff, or tell him about my successes. I'd be like, hey guy, I bought this and I paid $10 or $20 for it and I sold it for this much. He's like, really? That's a thing? You can do that?
Huh.
And eventually, he was like, well, let me dabble in this, find a couple names for us to buy. And, we bought a couple and they sat for a while. And then at one point, I was actually considering maybe going back into IT. And he said, because I guess he likes keeping me around. He said, why don't you take this domain thing and run with it? Let's partner up. And so that was in late 2018. And I went to my first NamesCon in January of 2019. And it's just been a roller coaster ride since.
Wow.
We bought 6 names at the auction there, and
Wait, so you barely got into domains for like a little over a year. You started your partnership in November 2018.
18
And in 2019, you bought 6 domains at auction?
at NamesCon, yeah.
Woo, good for you. Have you ever been, I like to ask this question, have you ever been to an auction before, domains? Like, I've never been to any auction except domain auctions, and I love them.
Oh yeah, I bought horses at auction.
Oh, okay. All right.
So if you think and I don't remember the auctioneer's name, and for that I
Wayne
apologize.
Wheat.
Okay, if you think Wayne is fast, you should see the guys at the livestock auctions. They will blow your mind. I mean,
Wow.
because they're dealing with a room of people that regularly go to auctions, whereas domainers are used to bidding online, and there's a little bit more of a time to process things. Livestock auctions are really a lot of excitement.
Wow, that sounds wild. Oh, wild. So I remember you mentioned solvent.com you bought in 2019.
Yes, that was one of the names we bought at auction.
Would that be good for this profitable flip?
It absolutely would.
Okay, and then
In fact,
so you bought solvent for the partnership,
yep,
and then afterwards we'll do a personal one. So
sounds good.
double up on our profitable flips.
There
Okay,
we go.
tell us the story. Why'd you buy solvent? How did that decision-making process go?
Well, solvent went late in the auction, and if I've been to 2 now, and you can kind of see as the room will start to empty out a little bit for the later names. And I was like, solvent is a great word. I mean, it's got multiple applications. It's got chemical applications. It's got financial implications, and it's a single, well-known dictionary word, which traditional wisdom is those are good to own. So I saw it going, and I was like, wow, this name is just going way too low. And during the auction, I mentioned we bought the 6 names. I'm on my laptop because I use the messaging function on the laptop rather than the phone because I hate typing on phones. And so I'm sitting there just tearing up the keyboard with my partner about everything we buy, making sure I'm where we're going. And I actually the bidding at the end for solvent went so fast, I couldn't even keep up with him. I just said, this is well worth where the bidding is now. I'm just paying it. I'm going to spend his money. So we got it. And as soon as the hammer fell, a couple people came up to me and like, man, it's like, do you want to sell that? I'm like, I must have done good because I'm not
That's
going to sell it unless they're going to offer me more than I just paid, because I thought it was a great name.
What'd you pay
Um,
for it?
it was $7,600.
$7,600. That's a great price for a oneword.com with several applications, like you said. Very nice. Okay, so what was the process afterwards when you sold it? When did you sell it?
Well, we had it listed, and I list all of our names. I list them on Afternic, and I list them on Dan. And we didn't do Dan at first. It was only a couple months after NamesCon that we kind of discovered Dan and started putting some names on there, and started having success with them. So we sold a number of names over the year. None of the ones that we bought at NamesCon. And then in early November, I got an inquiry. It was actually the minimum offer on Dan. It was 50,000 for solvent.com. And it was just a minimum offer, no text, no context, no writing. And I'm like, okay, well, I'd always thought it was easily a six-figure name, but at the same time, we'd had it only a year. We hadn't sold any of the others, so I countered at 95. I'm like, all right, let's keep it under six figures. Let's not scare them off with overpricing it, and maybe we can come to something in the middle there. His response was that they just offered the 50,000 to start the conversation. They weren't even really willing to pay that, which turns out this was a guy. I looked up his name, and anybody that has used Dan, there's sometimes the names are real. Sometimes you can figure out who it is. Sometimes you can't. But I tracked it down, and this guy was a pretty unique name, and he was in the VC world. So he was a venture capitalist. And I'm like, okay, this guy didn't, go through all the warnings that you're committing to buy a name and not be willing to pay that much for it. So when he said, he came back and said they couldn't even pay that, I told him, well, this is a partner name for me. Let me discuss it with my partner, and I'll get back to you and see what we'd be willing to take. So I did. I talked it over with my partner, and we came back and we went with 60,000. And it was just kind of a matter of, let's just see what we can get, take some profits, and that would almost cover the names that we bought at auction that year. That was one of that batch. And so the response from the buyer was that he had to go to his partners and discuss it. Now, whether there really are partners or whether that was a negotiating tactic, I can't be sure. I did have an inclination at the end, and you'll see why when the story unfolds. And so he said that would take about a week. So I was like, okay, cool, take your time. In our conversation, I'd explained to him that if this name was the right fit for his project, it would be money well spent, because it's not like it was going to go down in value. Single word.coms, we're holding their value, and if they spent 60 on it and went a different way, he was either going to get that out of it or pretty close to it and be able to move on. Yeah.
At this point, have you talked to him on the phone at any of these times, or is it all email?
No. All right. So this is all in the Dan interface. So on Dan, I looked at it, but they can make an offer, and then they can, it can be just an offer. It can be an offer, and they can communicate via text. And once you've started the process of negotiations, you can message each other, kind of like a text. And so the communications we've had have been via Dan. We haven't actually spoken on the phone or anything.
Okay.
So he says that he needs to, go take it over with his partners. It should take about a week. Week passes, not a peep. And one thing I told him, I said, there's an offer outstanding. You may get some automated notices from Dan, the Dan system. Just, you can just ignore those. Take your time. We'll pick this up whenever. And, when you get back to me. So a week went by, nothing. Another week, nothing. And at that point, 2 weeks in, I'm very tempted to touch base. But I'm thinking to myself, okay, this is a venture capitalist. This guy is probably pretty savvy when it comes to negotiating. If I contact him, I think I'm going to be showing weakness. And so I just waited and waited. And December 1st, I get a note, messaging Dan from him that says they talked it over with the partners. They're going to go a different direction. And I'm like, okay. And so me personally, I thought 60, I didn't mind taking that profit, but I think the name's probably worth more on a long hold. So I just wished him well in his venture, thanked him for his interest, and closed out the negotiations on as far as I was concerned. Considered the deal dead. Went through December.
So wait, so he started in early November, then it
Yep.
sounds like? And
Yes.
so pretty much a month went by.
A month went by.
Peace.
And he just said they were going to go a different direction. I thanked him for his interest, wished him well, and we had no more communication. Holidays came and went. January 7th, either Monday, Tuesday, I don't remember, it's for day of the week, but it was January 7th. I get a note in the same Dan communication, get the email notification that there's a message regarding it, and I go and look, and it says, "Hey, Happy New Year. The partners have come around. If you're still willing to sell for 60K, we'll take it." And I was like, "Yeah, we'll honor that price. We're good to go."
Wow.
So, yeah. So, I feel like the waiting game on my part, and who knows, maybe the turning of the year had something to do fiscally, but I just feel like if I'd have chased it, I'd have wound up letting it go for 50 or less. And so I just decided to wait. Now, you would think the story would end here, but it doesn't quite, because it took a few days, I think almost 20 days or about 14 days to get everything to wrap up. And during that time, a message came through from his attorney, and it was asking for some documentation and stuff. And he gave a phone number, and I called the attorney. And my impression was that they were looking to circumvent the Dan system. And I told him no. I said, "Look, these guys are good to me. We started the deal here. We're going to finish the deal here." Turns out he wasn't. It was just he was not familiar with the sales process. But pretty much, and this was probably 4 days after, we kind of struck the deal. But they had not actually accepted an offer at that point. We just talked about the fact that they were going to in the text messaging system. So I told him how it would go. I said, "There's an offer standing offer for, the 60K that we agreed upon. You'll either, if you're in control of the Dan account or the original buyer, whoever's in control of it, will need to accept that offer, and then the documentation will follow from the Dan system, because you're technically buying it from them, or through them from us." And he seemed fine with that. And then the name on the account changed again, because the actual name in the Dan account had changed to the lawyer's name at that point. Then it changed again. So I'm like, oh gosh, what kind of runaround is this? What's going on? I looked up this guy. Turns out he's the CFO of the VC company of the original guy. And I'm like, okay, I'm feeling pretty solid about this now. It still took a few days. And if anybody's familiar with Dan, you get notifications that the buyer has been reminded, and I texted with the guys and said, "Hey, look, I've been in touch with the lawyer, and this guy's the CFO. I know this is going to come, just hang on." And they said they had actually been in touch with some of those guys as well. So at that point, it just took
partners, your partner, or
no, the guys from Dan.
oh, okay.
Yeah. So who I had the pleasure of meeting at NamesCon this year, a couple of them. But at that time, I just knew their names, but their names were familiar enough to me from the number of domains we'd sold, and they probably recognized mine from various interactions we'd had. And so I just told them, I said, "Look, I know we're going a couple weeks in, and most times that's where you start to think about the deal might be falling through. But these guys, I feel pretty comfortable." And they agreed, because I guess they had spoken to either the lawyer or the CFO. So eventually, I think it was 13, 14 days later, Dan got payment, and then at that point we initiated the transfer of the domain. A few days later, money's getting wired to our account. And so basically in less than a year, we turned the purchase we had at NamesCon into a sale.
Good for you. Wow.
And
And what commission did Dan charge you?
that one was 9%.
Okay. That's
Uh,
fabulous. That's
yeah.
and I think this is really key for the Sherpa network to hear, because not everyone is in a financial position to hold out for the ultimate highest price. And that's not a great strategy all the time for anyone, but particularly when, I mean, you just got in 2017, you found a very well-priced domain and you sold it at a reasonable price. You're right, maybe you could have gotten $100,000 in 10 years, but maybe you wouldn't still be in domaining because you couldn't afford it. Or, and also there's the opportunity cost of, I mean, what else did you buy with the money that you made back? And let's get right to it. So what else did you buy?
Well,
So at NamesCon this year, you bought something.
well, yeah. So basically, and this was a personal purchase. I used my proceeds from that sale to purchase fresh food at this year's sale.
Freshfood.com. I love it. What did you pay for it?
It was 20,000, and that was a lot for me personally. And I've bought partnership domains in that range and some higher. But for me personally, that's definitely the most I've plucked down for anything at auction. I drive old cars, and I was joking with some of the guys sitting around me. I was like, this domain's worth about 10 times what my car is worth. And so anybody that's seen the Twitter photos of my car's in the background, it's a 1995 Lincoln Town car. And it's
running.
Yeah. So that's my
cars in general aren't appreciating assets anyway.
Right. I'd rather drive a cheap car and own expensive domains than the other way around. So
that sounds like a good bumper sticker, actually. I think too, like with all the talk about you working on improving your health, I think this is it. Like, you can only work on so much of your life, your goals at one time. And it's okay. You crush it on one thing and then go crush it on the next thing. And it sounds like that is exactly what you're doing. So we'll see. Actually, I just like a week or two ago, I had lunch with Amar Kuba, and he was telling the story about in 2007 he rented, like, I forget, it was like all these, he tried, basically, like, his company colors were bright orange, and he tried to rent a bright yellow Lamborghini, Ferrari, I don't know, it went back and forth until he finally got something, but it wasn't the one that he wanted. But he had that parked outside the conference in 2007, outside the domain conference. So Jason, I'm waiting on you, like 2025, you can pull up in that.
There we go. Probably be me pulling up on a Harley, though, because I spent my Harley money on fresh food. I was already trying to decide what bike I wanted, and then I was like, oh my gosh, fresh food's going for 20 grand. I can't let that pass by.
Wow,
so the Harley's got to wait.
Hey, good for you. Well, I'm sure it's in the pipeline. So do you still own freshfood.com?
Yes. It's barely a month since then.
Just checking. You never know.
Oh yeah. I've got it listed now. I would definitely probably flip it pretty quick for 2 or 3x. So if you got a buyer,
all right,
somebody out there is interested, let me know. But yeah,
okay.
holler at your boy.
So you told me you had a second one that you wanted, a second profitable flip that you wanted to share. And so Solvent was one for your partnership. Did
Correct.
you have one personally you wanted to share as well?
Yeah, I had one that there's not as much to the story, but it was my first big sale. And I kind of, it was one of my earlier bigger purchases. And it is funnelsecrets.com.
Oh, Oh, funnels are big talk right now, in, the marketing drip and all that. So funnel, Funnel,
Secrets.
secrets.com.
.com.
Okay, and I could hear already people saying, people aren't going to know how to spell that or whatever. But people trying to figure out these drip systems and funneling different leads, that's a good idea. So where did you see that? What made it stand out to you? What'd you pay for it?
Okay, so one of the biggest people in the funnel world, in the internet marketing world, that is a proponent of funnels is Russell Brunson, and he had 2 books. One was .com secrets, and I should have looked it up. Both of the books ended in the word secrets, and they
Oh,
were both related to internet marketing. But he didn't have a book called Funnel Secrets, and he didn't have the words Funnel Secrets trademarked. And so I'm doing my daily drop watch and seeing, and so I know I put a back order in for that, and multiple people had it. Dropcatch caught it, went to auction, and I was like, you know what? This domain is just going to be worth money. It's just going to be somebody in that industry is going to understand the value of this domain, even if he doesn't have the book. I would have thought that he would have been the ideal buyer for it. I don't really do much in the way of outbound. But so on the sale, it kept going up, and I was bidding back and forth, and it went up to like $550. And for a
and this
seemingly,
was it expired at GoDaddy?
no, it was actually it was a back order auction at Dropcatch.
Oh, okay.
And I was just bidding on it. Obviously I'd hoped to get it for not much more than the Dropcatch, the full price back order, but somebody else obviously saw some value in it too, and we went back and forth. And so it took $550 to buy it, and at that point, that was probably the most I had spent on a domain myself.
And when was this?
And this was actually October of 2018. So this was even before the partnership had started.
Really
In earnest.
Yeah.
We had dabbled in it, but before we really kind of kicked off the partnership. So this was it's a little bit of a big deal for me. At that point I was buying $20 closeouts and flipping them for a couple $100 and getting my feet wet. But I saw the value in it, and decided
I
was
did
going to
research, and it sounds to me more than anything like what this sale confirmed for you. It, like, once it was in the profitable flip end of it, that you really had a good instinct and knew what you were doing. So I own Russell Brunson's book, Expert Secrets. And while we were talking, I looked it up in my Amazon account and I ordered it in October 2018. So,
Oh, wow.
yeah, funny.
So, yeah.
But you're right. He's got, like, I don't know how many books dating back since 2011 is the oldest one I see. .com secrets, traffic secrets, network marketing secrets, expert secrets. Yeah, so really smart idea. So $550, the most you ever spent. But at least in the other end, you had the confirmation that somebody else thought it was worth one bid below 550.
Right.
Then,
And that was a lesson that was well learned on watching many domain Sherpa reviews and hearing many of the people say that was, if you're bidding against a name, it has value because there's somebody that's willing to pay one bid under what you paid. And so that lesson was ringing in my mind as I was bidding on that, along with my own instincts and the fact that I just knew funnels were huge, and that the wording of this matched the way that his books were titled. So I get that. I list it. I was listening around 10K. I can't remember specifically. And at that time, it would have only been on Afternic that I had it listed. I wasn't really even tuned into Dan or Landers. At that point, and I might have had it on FT, but I don't even remember for sure. I did have a couple names on there at the time. So fast forward, as the year passes, as the year rolls over to 2019, and I'm really kind of getting into this a lot more. I go to get all the names listed on on Dan. And as I'm pricing this, I'm really kind of a student of pricing strategy. Like charm pricing is when you price something that ends in 99. You try and get the most, but not break that next number. And then there's certain theories, schools of thought that say that for big purchases, round numbers work well, almost probably better than charm pricing. Still haven't landed on anything as far as that, but I do toy around with it at times. So, at some point in the first quarter of 2019, I had set the buy it now price on this name at $9,500.
Okay.
And I remember doing that specifically based on the research of the round numbers and big projects. And I was actually in Raleigh, North Carolina, where my family's from. I live in Greensboro, and staying with a relative. And I woke up one morning and there was a email saying, we have gotten payment has been received for funnelsecrets.com, $9,500. And I'll tell you, if I could have done a backflip physically, I would have done one right then. Because so here I am. I'm visiting my mom. I'm like running up. I'm like, you're not going to believe what just happened. Because she's always, she's really kind of doesn't understand my forays into some of the alternative, investment stuff. I dabble in crypto as well. And she's always been like, and I was really early in crypto. And she was like, I just don't know about all this. And then a few years later, she's like, that Bitcoin stuff that you used to talk about has gotten kind of big. So, it was kind of it was a neat moment where I was like, look, this actually paid off. See?
Yeah, I bet you were paying for breakfast that morning.
Yeah, for sure. So, not a lot to this, not as interesting of a negotiation story with it being a buy it now, but it definitely kind of goes to the purchasing and the thought process going into, the names that you buy.
I agree, but also I think it is very interesting. You didn't just randomly throw a number up there. You said you really like to research about pricing strategy. Do you have any recommendations for our audience? I want to ask two things, like podcasts they should listen to, places they should read up, blogs they should watch, whatever, but then also just actual numbers like you were saying. So first, where would you recommend someone start learning about that, watching trends?
Well, the term is charm pricing. Just Google that. There's a number of good resources and good articles and psychological, research on it. So, and that will lead you to several different pricing strategies. But in general, I price the names that I expect to be an impulse buy. I charm price them at like a 99 or a 98, sometimes at an 88. In my retail background, we had pricing a lot of times that ended in 88. And I believe that there's research that says that works better than 99 because the 99 is overused. But in any case, any of those where you're pricing on the upper end but below the next round number is considered charm pricing. So in general, on my lower price names, anything under 3,000, I almost invariably price them at use charm pricing, and it's just kind of a lot of times it's just a whim, whether I do a 98 or 90
tier. So your first tier is the charm pricing, ending preferably in 88 up to 3,000. Then it goes from 3,000 to what is your next?
And if somebody were to track down my portfolio, I'm not going to say that I'm 100% following this, but generally 3,500 up. I like round numbers, especially on a name that is going to be something that is going to be well thought out.
Okay. And that's 3,500 up to six figures.
Yeah. I mean, like the buy it now right now for fresh food, I guarantee you is a nice round number, because nobody's going to be like, oh, that's, 249,000. If it was 250, I'm not going to buy it,
Yeah.
but I'll buy it because it's 249,000. No,
Yeah.
they're
Funny, you have
reaching.
it listed for 250,000.
Oops,
No,
I
what you're
let that
talking
slip.
about. No.
But on the lower price names where it could be an impulse buy, because I know, obviously the way I got into domaining was I was buying names that I thought I would use for a business. I was hand registering those, but if I had, if at that time I'd come across a name in the registration path that was not a hand reg name, but was at a price, and if it was like $699, $699, I might have bought it. Whereas if it had said 750, I'd have been like, that's too much. So I just think that I think impulse buys are better served with charm pricing, intentional, corporate, well thought out research buys. I like round numbers for, and my research is kind of borne out a school of thought that agrees with that. So
Good for you. All right, good to know. So, what else should we know about you? What's going on in your world? What to look for in the coming year? If there are opportunities or people you want to connect with, what you have taken so much time to share with the domain community, both and the thing about your health is so exciting to watch, not only because it's about your health, but because all of us have our struggles, and seeing you putting yourself out there and really applying yourself makes all of us want to do the same. So thank you for taking the time to come on Sherpa and tell us what you're doing in business. But shout out time. What you got, baby?
well, first thing is just everybody that has ever liked or commented one of my health-based tweets. I mean, that means the world to me. Obviously, if you've seen me at conference, or you could tell in the picture here, I've obviously struggled with my weight, and that's been a lifelong challenge since probably college. And I've reached a point where I absolutely have to do something about it for health reasons. And I've known that, and I've known, it's not like you're never this size not knowing you need to lose weight, but it just, it got to a point where I had to, and as has been mentioned in certain tweet threads, and I think Shane mentioned it on a blog post. I was at NamesCon, and I ran into Michael Seiger and Shane Coltra coming in from a morning run that Saturday. I was headed over to Bangers for the fun day. They were coming in, and I was just like, that's pretty cool. That they, this thing they do, but it didn't really strike me then. But then, just a few days after I got back from NamesCon, Shane posted something about a run he did, and I was like, man, there's no better time to get this going than now. And so I just grabbed my stuff and I went out and I walked a mile. And I guarantee you, at that point, I probably hadn't, walked a mile intentionally at a decent pace in months. I mean, I made stabs at it before, but you fail until you don't, and that's what it's been to now. There was a time where I walked 66 days straight,
Wow.
and then didn't stick with it after that. And I had some reasons, but I was having some knee problems, but there's going to be some way for me to keep this up. So I responded to Shane's tweet. He came back with just amazing response, saying that he was even happy, even more. I mean, it's gonna be hard for me not to even get choked up over this, maybe. But he was just saying that it meant, the fact that he got me to walk meant more to him than his actual run. And I was like, oh, that's so cool. And then I was like, you know what, I got to keep it up. So I did it the next day, and so that was a response to his tweet. So the next day I tweeted,
Wow.
and then and I'm tweeting a screenshot of my app and a selfie, and I guarantee you I've taken more selfies since I started this than I've done in the last 10 years. Because one of the things about being big is you don't like the way you look on camera, and I'm not a selfie guy. if you ever follow my Instagram or even my Twitter feed occasionally, you'll see me posting pictures or videos of the nightclubs I'm working at, of the crowds. Rarely do you see me in them. So then I did it, one day, the next day, and everybody's like liking it, and then other people are jumping in, and then Michael Seiger made some comments about it. It was really encouraging. And day 3 I did it again, and I'm like, you know what, I'm going to start boring these people. I don't want to overwhelm outwear my welcome. And then a couple of people said they look forward to the tweaks every day. On that very day that I was considering just kind of backing off doing it, I was going to keep doing the exercise, but I was just not going to be putting it out there. But then they said how much they liked it, and then it just kind of snowballed from there. And so I just did it and kept doing it every day, and everybody was so great. I was getting likes and comments and attaboys and Twitter high fives, as Shane calls them. And it was just, it was really helpful, because on the days that that maybe before, without the encouragement, I would have quit or would have skipped a day. I'm like, nah, man, I got people out there, pushing me forward. I got to keep doing this. And I know the way that I am, like, it is literally no days off. If I take a day off, one day will turn into 2, 2 will turn into 3. So I'm gonna, there may be days like last night, I went out at 11 o'clock, because it had just been a crazy day involving dentists and hair salons and voting and stuff going all sorts of ways, and other business that I had, fires I had to put out. But I was like, man, I got to get it in, and I got to get it in before midnight.
Wow.
And so I went out and did it.
Dedication.
It's just a big thing for me to make sure that I do it every day. And the support has been amazing. Especially, I've gotten massive support on Twitter from Michael Seiger and Shane Cultra. Really, really, just the stuff on Sherpa last week was amazing. I couldn't believe that. From Drew and Shane both. I mean, I've talked to Shane. Shane and I, I've communicated with Shane a lot. I sat beside Michael at the Dean Academy luncheon in Austin. I've probably spoken to Drew like 2 minutes in my life in any way, shape, or form. So just to have him even, support me, like, it's just amazing.
Yeah. I can't out what you're doing in your business too. And you are already on their radar. And that really says something to anyone who wants to get into domains, that in 2017, you can start, and here you are today. I mean, that's incredible, Jason. I'm super excited. Like, I feel like domainers are such a tiny little club and like a little family. And when somebody new comes, and you didn't just bring yourself, you brought in your secret partner too. That's really exciting. Well, welcome.
Well, thank you.
Sherpa, I have a mug to send you. Oh, I should have it right here to show you, but I don't. But
wow, that's awesome.
Send you, and I can't wait to have you on again and keep in touch on Twitter too.
Oh, that's awesome. And thanks so much for having me.
Of course. Thanks for taking the time. All right. Oh, I want to ask, what app do you use? What fitness app are you using?
I use Runwalker, and hang on. Let me make sure. No, Runkeeper. Sorry.
Okay.
I misspoke. Because I'm working my way up to full runs. So far, it's been mostly intermittent. Although last night I did make the furthest consistent straight run that I'd made yet, at 11:30 at night. Amazingly. So the weather was real nice, so that helped. So Runkeeper is what I use. It's been great. I've used it through my past attempts to get here, and it just works really well for me.
That's so fabulous. All right. Well, we will see you next time on your Runkeeper stats on Twitter.
Very good.
All right. Bye, Jason.
Thanks, Tess. Take care.
You too.